What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to quickly touch on the issues that I had with the fitment of the Forge Turbo Inlet Pipe that I installed on my 1.8T AWP engine. This video is not meant to be an installation guide. I have a different video for that here that you can check out if you've already bought the part and you're trying to figure out how to install it. If you haven't bought the part yet, I suggest you watch this video and the installation video, and then you can decide if you want to go through the trouble of installing it. Just as a quick disclaimer, the vacuum and breather system on this car are virtually stock, so I am trying to connect all those parts to this aftermarket piece, but the Forge website doesn't say that you can't run it on a stock car, so that's kind of where my issues begin. Everything I read prior to buying this is that it's a great fit, it's a quick install, etc, etc. We've all read it on the forums. It's simply not true. This thing contacts the coolant hard pipe. I had to bend it a little bit to get it to fit a little better, and it still doesn't really fit right. And it contacts the heater hoses that run to the firewall. When I first installed this, I had the coolant hard pipe and the heater hoses off the car because I was replacing those, so it went on fine. Then when I went to install those parts back on the car, I couldn't get them on, so I took the turbo inlet pipe off because I figured I can always go back to stock. I gotta have my cooling system together. Once the cooling parts were back on, trying to get the turbo inlet pipe back on was a royal pain. Moving on from there, all the hard vacuum lines that are up by the Combi valve are also in the way. I had to bend those a little bit, and I even put a section of heater hose on it because it was contacting the inlet pipe. I understand that the Combi valve is a popular thing to remove or delete, etc., but I didn't on my car. I haven't needed to. The car runs fine, and the website doesn't say that you should remove it in order for this thing to fit properly. The next thing I want to move on to is your N75 diverter valve, hockey puck, and a couple of vacuum lines that you have to connect to this thing. If you're using stock hookups for the N75 diverter valve and hockey puck, it's not going to work. Everything's kind of in the way of each other, and you're going to have to end up trimming the turbo inlet pipe. I have a 034 Motorsports silicone upper PCV hose, and it worked great with the stock turbo inlet pipe. As you can see with the Forge, it does not. Not only is the hockey puck too high, but you can see that even if you lowered it, it's just simply the wrong angle. When you look at the stock turbo inlet pipe and compare it to the Forge, you can see that the location of that provision for the hockey puck is in a completely different place. Basically, the two provisions for the diverter valve and the hockey puck should be rotated more towards the side of the turbo inlet pipe. Instead, they're on the top, and they're obviously too tall. Being too tall isn't a huge deal as you can trim them, but they're still just not in the right place for the stock lines to connect. Even after trimming everything, it still doesn't fit perfectly. It fits a lot better. I'm not kinking any of the hoses, nothing's got too much stress on it, but it still doesn't fit as perfectly as I would like it to. A great example of this is that the stock vacuum hose that runs to the top of the diverter valve no longer fits. The diverter valve is too high because it's above the hockey puck, so I had to use my own little length of vacuum line to run it. In addition to that, the N75 is rotated too far towards the firewall on the turbo inlet pipe, so the wire that connects to that is pulled pretty tight. It's not so tight that I'm worried about damaging it, but it's tighter than it was on the stock inlet pipe. Lastly, I want to talk about the connection of the turbo inlet pipe to the MAF and then the intake. If you're running a short ram intake or just a filter on the end of the MAF, this isn't going to be a problem. I don't know if it's a problem if you're running a stock airbox. I'm going to guess that it is. It is a problem for me. I have an aftermarket new speed intake. The intake itself fits great. It also fit the stock turbo inlet pipe great. My problem comes again with the Forge inlet pipe. As you can see, the inlet pipe is so long that I can't fit a coupler between the MAF and the intake. And even if I didn't need a coupler between the two, it's still too long. I wouldn't be able to fit it. Unfortunately, trimming the turbo inlet pipe in this area just to make it the right length won't fix the problem. The inlet pipe is also the wrong angle where it has to meet the intake. So when I did trim it and got it to fit lengthwise, it was putting way too much stress on the coupler between the intake and the MAF. The only solution I could come up with to connect the two pieces was to buy this hump coupler. Unfortunately, the MAF and the intake aren't the same diameter, so I had to find a reducer hump coupler, which is kind of difficult. I was finally able to source one. Of course, my luck, it was red, which drives me crazy because I have a black intake, black turbo inlet pipe. I just wanted a black coupler. Couldn't find one, so it's red. I don't really care. It's not a show car. It drives. That's all I care about, but it's just a reminder of what a debacle this all turned into. In the end, I was able to get it all connected. The car runs and drives fine, so it all worked out, but it's just a long road to get there. It's actually been on the car for a year at this point. I wanted to wait and make this video because if there was any problems I had with it, I wanted to include it, but I can honestly say that there's been no issues once it's on the car. If you have experience with a non-Forge turbo inlet pipe and it's been better, please leave a comment. I would love to know. I'm sure anybody watching this video would like to know if there's a better way to spend your money on a turbo inlet pipe. I can't tell you if this is worth it or not. I do feel a little bit of a difference. I feel like the boost comes on sooner and more constant as opposed to waiting a little bit and then having it kind of hit harder. Not that these cars really have turbo lag, but I'm sure anybody with one of these cars knows what I'm talking about. If you did buy an inlet pipe and you're looking for an installation guide, I have a video for that here. It is for the Forge unit, so maybe if you have a non-Forge you won't have those problems, but I think it'll work either way. Thanks so much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any experiences, good, bad, or indifferent with turbo inlet pipes on a 1.8T, leave a comment. I want to hear, I'm sure other people do too. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out some of my other videos, and don't forget to subscribe.